When you wake up in the morning, before the world has a chance to tell you who you are, before the notifications pop up, before the emails hit your inbox, you've got to be the first voice you hear. Because if you don't anchor yourself in your identity, the world will gladly hand you one, and usually, it's not going to be the kind that builds you. It will be the label from yesterday's mistake. It will be the opinion of someone who doesn't even know your heart. It will be the expectation from a boss, a partner, or a friend who might see only one small piece of who you are. And if you let those voices go unchallenged, they'll become the script you live by. That's why the very first thing you've got to tell yourself every morning is simple: I know who I am. Now, when I say that, I don't mean you've got to have every answer about your life figured out. It's not about having some perfect definition written out on a sticky note. It's about recognizing that your identity doesn't come from what people think of you. It comes from the values you choose to stand on. It comes from the experiences that have shaped you, the lessons you've learned, and the decisions you continue to make. And here's the key: when you start your day by reminding yourself who you are, you stop handing that power over to other people. Think about how easy it is to walk into your day and immediately feel pulled in 100 directions. Somebody makes a comment about how you look, and suddenly you feel less confident. Somebody questions your work, and suddenly you feel less capable. Somebody ignores you, and suddenly you feel invisible. But when you wake up and speak to yourself first, you've already set the foundation. You've already decided, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, this is what I bring. That's armor, that's protection, that's strength. And here's the reality: people are always going to have opinions. Some will be good, some will be harsh, some will have nothing to do with you at all. But if you let every opinion stick, you'll lose yourself in the shuffle. Waking up and declaring who you are isn't arrogance, it's alignment. It's reminding your own heart before anyone else gets the chance to rewrite your story. And maybe right now you're thinking, but what if I don't feel like I know who I am yet? That's okay. You don't have to have it all figured out to start. What you can do is pick one thing that you know is true. Maybe it's, I'm someone who doesn't quit easily. Maybe it's, I'm someone who treats people with kindness. Maybe it's, I'm someone who's willing to keep trying. Those small truths are anchors. They're reminders that you've got a foundation already, and you're building on it every day. When you claim your identity in the morning, you walk differently. You respond differently. You stop chasing approval because you already know you're enough. You stop being shaken by every opinion because you already know what you stand for. And you stop drifting through your day because you've already chosen the direction you're walking in. The words you choose in the morning are like seeds you're planting in the soil of your mind. And here's the thing about seeds: they don't look like much when you put them in the ground. They're small, they're ordinary, but what they grow into depends entirely on what kind of seeds you plant. If you wake up and start your day by saying, I can't do this, or I'm not good enough, you've just planted a seed of limitation. And whether you realize it or not, your brain will start looking for ways to water it, to prove it true. But when you wake up and tell yourself, I am capable of more than I think, you're planting a seed of possibility, and your mind will begin to find evidence for that too. Now, the difference might not show up in one day, just like you don't see a tree grow overnight. But over time, those words start shaping the way you carry yourself. If you believe you're limited, you'll shrink back from opportunities. You'll hesitate, you'll hold back, and you'll convince yourself you're not ready. But if you believe in possibility, even if you don't have all the answers, you'll start moving forward anyway. And momentum is what builds confidence. Confidence doesn't show up at the finish line. It shows up when you take the first step, when you act on the belief that maybe, just maybe, you're more capable than you gave yourself credit for. Think about it. So many of the great things in your life right now probably came from moments when you weren't fully ready but decided to try anyway. Maybe it was a job you thought you weren't qualified for, but you applied. Maybe it was a conversation you were nervous to have, but you had it. Maybe it was a challenge you thought was too big, but you leaned in. And in each of those moments, you discovered a little more about your strength. That's the power of speaking possibility. You give yourself permission to show up, and in showing up, you realize just how much you're actually capable of. And I want you to notice something. When you say, I am capable of more than I think, you're not pretending life is easy. You're not denying that challenges are real. You're not ignoring your fears. What you're doing is refusing to let those fears be the final word. You're choosing to acknowledge that your potential is bigger than your doubts. And sometimes, that small shift in language is all it takes to tip the scale. There's a saying that your brain is like a heat-seeking missile. It will lock onto whatever target you give it. If you tell yourself, I can't, your brain starts gathering evidence for why you can't. But if you tell yourself, I can, it starts scanning for reasons you can. And that's why mornings matter so much, because that's when you set the target. That's when you decide what kind of evidence you're going to be looking for all day long. So when you wake up, don't hand your mind a story of limitation. Hand it a story of possibility. Tell yourself, I am capable of more than I think, even if it feels uncomfortable at first, even if you don't fully believe it yet. Keep saying it, because the more you hear it, the more you'll start to see it, and the more you see it, the more you'll start to live it. Every day, things are going to come at you that you didn't plan for. People are going to say things that frustrate you, disappoint you, or flat out make you mad. Life is going to throw interruptions, delays, and unexpected problems right in your path. You don't get to decide what shows up, but you do get to decide how you respond. That's the difference, maker. And if you don't remind yourself of that every morning, you'll spend the whole day reacting instead of leading yourself. When you start the day by saying, today, I control how I respond, you're putting the power back in your hands. Because here's the truth, most of the time, it's not the situation itself that ruins our day, it's the way we choose to handle it. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and suddenly you're angry for the next hour. A coworker makes a comment, and you carry it like a weight until bedtime. It's not the event, it's the reaction, and the reaction is always yours to choose. We often tell ourselves, they made me mad, they ruined my mood. But the reality is, they didn't make you anything. You allowed their behavior to dictate your state. And I know that sounds tough to hear, but it's also incredibly freeing. Because if no one else can control your response, then no one else has control over your peace. That's why reminding yourself of this truth in the morning is so powerful. It sets a standard before the chaos even shows up. Think about it like this. If you go into the day without deciding how you'll respond, you're like a boat without an anchor. Every wave, every gust of wind, every storm that comes, you're just tossed around. But when you wake up and say, I choose my response today, you've dropped your anchor. The waves might hit, the winds might blow, but you don't drift nearly as far because you're already grounded in your choice. And here's what's interesting. When you actually start practicing this, you'll notice something. People who used to get under your skin don't affect you the same way anymore. Situations that once ruined your whole afternoon barely register. That's not because the world got easier. It's because you got stronger in how you respond. You trained yourself to step back, breathe, and choose instead of just react. This doesn't mean you don't feel emotions. You're human. You're going to feel frustration, anger, disappointment. But feeling it and feeding it are two different things. You can feel the spark of irritation and still choose not to fan it into a wildfire. You can feel the sting of someone's words and still decide not to carry them with you the rest of the day. That choice is where your real strength lies. And the best part is, the more you choose your responses intentionally, the more your peace stops being fragile. You stop being at the mercy of how people act, and you start living from a place of stability. That's what allows you to show up calmer, stronger, and more consistent no matter what the day throws at you. When you wake up in the morning, it's easy for your mind to immediately start running to everything that feels heavy. The bills that need to be paid, the deadlines waiting at work, the argument from yesterday you still haven't let go of. If you're not careful, your very first thoughts can be complaints dressed as responsibilities. And here's the danger. Whatever you focus on first usually sets the tone for the rest of your day. That's why gratitude matters so much, not just as a nice idea, but as a daily practice. Because when you start your morning by saying, "I already have enough to be thankful for," you shift your attention from what drains you to what fuels you. Gratitude doesn't mean ignoring your problems or pretending they're not there. It doesn't mean you're in denial about the challenges in front of you. What it does mean is that you're choosing to widen the lens. Instead of zooming in only on what's missing, you're reminding yourself of what's already present. And the truth is, no matter how hard things are right now, there is always something worth being thankful for. Maybe it's the fact that you woke up this morning with another shot at life. Maybe it's the roof over your head or the meal you had yesterday. Maybe it's the people who love you or the lessons you've learned through the struggles you've faced. Gratitude takes what we often overlook and brings it back into focus. And here's what gratitude does that's so powerful it changes your perspective before the day can. If you wake up looking for what's wrong, you'll find it. If you wake up looking for what's good, you'll find that too. Your mind is always scanning for evidence, and gratitude tells it where to look. That doesn't mean your problems disappear, but it does mean you stop being consumed by them. You walk into the same circumstances, but you walk in lighter, because your attention is no longer chained to what's lacking. I think sometimes we assume gratitude is for when life feels good, but the real test of gratitude is when life feels hard. When you can look around in the middle of uncertainty and still say, "I have enough to be thankful for," you're building resilience. Because gratitude is fuel, it keeps you steady when everything else feels shaky. It gives you strength when life gives you reasons to complain. Complaints drain energy. Gratitude creates it. And it's not about making some big dramatic list every morning. It can be as simple as taking a deep breath and saying, "I'm thankful for this breath," or sipping your coffee and saying, "I'm thankful for this moment." Small acts of recognition build into a bigger mindset. And the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. Gratitude stops being something you have to force and starts becoming the way you see the world. What's amazing is that when you walk into your day with gratitude, people feel it. You carry yourself differently, you listen with more patience, you handle challenges with more calm, you see opportunities where others only see obstacles. Gratitude shifts your presence, and your presence shifts the atmosphere around you. One of the easiest traps to fall into is waking up and moving through your day without any sense of direction. You get up, you check your phone, you go through the motions, and before you know it, the day is gone, and you're left wondering where the time went. That's why it's so important to remind yourself in the morning, everything I do today will move me closer to who I want to be. Because when you frame your actions through the lens of purpose, even the smallest tasks take on meaning. Purpose doesn't have to be some huge, world-changing mission. It doesn't mean you need to have your entire life figured out. Purpose is simply the decision to live with intention instead of drifting. It's the reminder that the choices you make, no matter how small, are shaping the person you're becoming. And if you don't choose that direction, the day will choose it for you. Distractions will choose it for you. Other people's priorities will choose it for you. Purpose is how you take that power back. When you tell yourself, "Everything I do today will move me closer to who I want to be," you start seeing opportunities where you used to see obligations. That meeting at work isn't just another meeting. It's a chance to show up as the kind of leader you want to be. That work out isn't just about breaking a sweat. It's about building the discipline and health that your future self will thank you for. That quiet moment with your kids or your spouse isn't just part of the routine. It's part of the life you're intentionally building. When you align your actions with purpose, nothing is wasted. And here's the key. Purpose doesn't make life easier, but it does make life clearer. When you know who you want to become, decisions get simpler. Do I scroll for an hour, or do I use that time to invest in something that moves me forward? Do I react in anger, or do I respond in a way that reflects the kind of person I'm striving to be? Do I let this day slip by, or do I make it count? These aren't just choices anymore. They're reflections of whether or not you're walking in alignment with your purpose. The beautiful thing is, you don't need to have a grand plan to live with purpose. You just need to know your values and let them guide your actions. If you value growth, choose the things that challenge you. If you value relationships, invest your time where it matters most. If you value integrity, let your words and actions match. Purpose isn't about perfection, it's about direction, and reminding yourself of that every morning keeps you from wandering aimlessly. There's a huge difference between being busy and being purposeful. Busy fills your schedule, purpose fills your life. Busy is exhausting, purpose is energizing, and the truth is, you can spend your whole day doing things, and at the end of it still feel empty, unless what you're doing connects back to who you want to become. That's why mornings matter so much. They give you the chance to set that alignment before the noise of the day distracts you. Perfection is one of the heaviest weights you can carry into a new day. You wake up already feeling like you've got to get everything right, that every word, every choice, every move has to measure up to some impossible standard. And the problem with that is, it steals the joy out of your progress. You could be growing, learning, moving forward in real ways, but if perfection is your goal, you'll always feel like you're failing. That's why it's so important to remind yourself every morning, I don't need to be perfect. I just need to keep growing. Growth is honest. Growth is realistic. Growth allows room for mistakes, for stumbles, for setbacks, and still calls it progress. Because progress isn't about never falling. It's about refusing to stay down when you do. Perfection says, don't even try unless you can guarantee success. Growth says, try, and let the trying itself shape you. And when you carry that mindset into your day, the pressure lifts. You stop seeing every mistake as proof you're not enough, and you start seeing it as proof that you're stretching, that you're learning, that you're alive. The truth is, some of the strongest lessons in your life didn't come from when you got it right the first time. They came from the times you missed it, the times you had to adjust, the times you realized you had more to learn. And if you only allow yourself to feel proud when you hit perfect, you're going to rob yourself of all those lessons that are actually shaping you into someone stronger. Growth is a process, and the process is where the character is built. What's powerful about choosing growth over perfection is that it frees you to actually start. Think about how many dreams get buried under the thought, I'm not ready yet. How many conversations never happen, how many goals never get started, how many opportunities get missed because someone is waiting to feel perfect before they step forward. Growth doesn't demand that. Growth says, start where you are with what you have and let the rest come as you go. And when you live by that, you'll find yourself moving in directions you never would have if you'd kept waiting to feel perfect. Even in relationships, this shift matters. Perfection will keep you guarded, afraid to admit weakness, afraid to show flaws. Growth allows honesty. It allows you to say, I'm working on this, and give yourself permission to be in process. And when you give yourself that grace, you also give it to others. You stop holding people to impossible standards, and instead, you start encouraging them in their progress, just like you're learning to encourage yourself. It's not about lowering the bar, it's about raising the focus. Perfection focuses on the outcome, growth focuses on the journey, and journeys are where life happens. Journeys are where confidence is built. Journeys are where resilience gets forged, and if you can remind yourself every morning that growth is enough, you'll walk into your day lighter, freer, and more willing to try again when things don't go as planned.